feel like you get energy from being alone? Or could you stay at home for a weekend and not be bored? Well, if so, you better get ready to relate to this video, and if not, prepare to be, well, educated. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Relatable Rissa, where we're talking about all things relatable for you youth and young adults out there. So today's topic is introverts, and I love talking about introverts. First of all, I'm a bit of a psychology nut. So I find things like personality and just all things related to psychology really interesting. So today I thought I'd talk a little bit about why it's great to be an introvert and kind of some of the challenges of being an introvert, just to kind of either relate to you or inform you of what the life of an introvert is like. So first of all, what is an introvert? If you're unfamiliar with that term, it's basically a way we can define a personality. It's one aspect of a personality, and it's a scale. So no one's like completely an introvert or completely an extrovert, and basically the scale is measuring where you draw your energy from. So an extrovert gets their energy from being around people, and they get stimulated and energized that way, whereas an introvert gets energy from being alone and having like time by themselves where it's peaceful and quiet so they can decompress. That is what energizes them. Now, like I said earlier, it's a scale. So I personally, when I take personality assessments, I usually score about like 90% introverted and 10% extroverted. So I'm a pretty high introvert. So I definitely fall into a lot of stereotypes for an introvert. I do like, yeah, you'll see. Anyway, I do fall into some of the introverted stereotypes quite a bit because I'm mainly an introvert. And yeah, so this video is just going to dive into pros and cons of being an introvert, and hopefully you'll find something relatable or learn something about the people in your life. So before we get started, please subscribe to my channel by clicking the big red button down below and give this video a thumbs up. Alright, let's move on to the video. So first thing I want to talk about are the pros of being an introvert and why I personally love being an introvert and think introverts are really cool people. I mean, extroverts are cool people too, don't get me wrong, but this is specifically geared towards introverts. So, reason number one is that introverts are okay being alone, and I think this is a really cool thing because sometimes in life you don't always have the opportunity to be around other people, and being alone is sometimes a really great thing. Personally, I love just being able to be by myself, especially if I'm like out in nature. For me, it's very therapeutic and just a wonderful experience. I feel like I re-energize really well that way if I have time to just sit and think and process whatever's happened throughout my day. I think being alone is something I really love about being an introvert, just because it gives me the opportunity to reflect on my day and think through things and not feel lonely. So, reason number two is being observant. Now, I think people who are more on the extroverted side of personality, if they're in a conversation, they like to talk, and they talk a lot. I don't really love talking in a group that much, so if I'm in a conversation, unless I need to talk, I usually tend to just observe other people. I love people watching. It's like a huge hobby for me. But I just love observing the interactions between the people in the conversation. Honestly, I feel like I learn more about people that way sometimes, just picking up on like those nonverbal communication things like body language and voice tone, stuff like that. I'm a big observer. I observe a lot of things and probably knows a lot of things that people who are more like outgoing and always talking probably don't really realize. So that's definitely one of the things I love about being an introvert, is being able to just observe the world around me. Which kind of brings me a little bit to my next point, which is point number 3, and that is deep conversations. Okay, I hate, not emphasize this enough, hate small talk. It's the worst. It's horrible. I hate doing it. So yeah, if I meet someone new, I put up with it because, I mean, socially that's what's considered appropriate. But as soon as I can, I love having like deeper, more meaningful conversations. They don't even have to be like vulnerable, personal stuff, but just something besides the basics. The basic stuff is just like, hey, let me ask you some questions that I don't really care to know the answers to, and you can ask me some questions that you don't care about either, and we'll say that we had a conversation. It's like, no, just no. I love deep conversations that actually help me get to know people, and I think that's one of the really cool things about being an introvert is we kind of have an ability to dive into deeper conversations without feeling quite as like out of sorts, I guess. I don't know how else to put it, but we love deep conversations. We love having really meaningful connections with people. So point number 4 is genuine friendships, and I think this is a really cool ability that a lot of introverts have, is to have really deep connections with people. It kind of goes like with the last one I said about deep conversations. We also really love deep friendships. It's like the people that stay in our life and we consider to be our friends, we like to get to know them really well and have deep connections with them. I can't stand like drama or stuff in my friendships, or like superficial type stuff. I tend to really dive into friendships and get really deep, solid connections with people, and I think that's a really cool thing to have, and it definitely makes you feel like you have a support system. We may not have the most friends in the world, but we have really good, deep friendships. So that's something that I think is really cool about being an introvert. And last but not least, self-reliance. This is point number 5, and I think this is a really cool skill that introverts have, or at least some introverts. I think it's more of an introverted thing. At least a lot of introverts I know have this kind of ability, in basically just relying on yourself to do things, to have the knowledge to do things, and not having to ask other people to help you all the time. I don't really like doing that because I hate feeling like I'm burdening someone. So I just really love being able to solve my own problems when I can. And I think that's a really cool skill for introverts, is just kind of be able to take care of themselves. Okay, so now some of the downsides to being an introvert. As much as I do love being an introvert, there are things about it, being an introvert, that can make life a little, well, challenging. And first thing that can make life hard when you're an introvert is socializing in general and just initiating conversations, especially just putting yourself out there and starting a conversation. To me, I really don't like doing that. Shockingly, I actually used to be better at doing it when I was a kid, but I kind of got a little more tentative as I've gotten older. I've kind of trained myself again to just like be more outgoing and go up and talk to people, but it's not my first choice. If I have a friend with me who's an extrovert, I'll let them go and find the new person, and I'll join in, because I don't know. I never know what to talk about. I hate small talk, and it's just like, not my thing. It's definitely a challenge, and it's something that as an introvert you really have to push yourself to do, to go like introduce yourself to new people. I mean, most of the time it ends up really great, and sometimes you end up getting a new friendship out of it, but the actual act of going up and talking to the person, if you don't know them, is kind of terrifying. So it could definitely be a bit of a challenge for an introvert. Okay, point number 2 is low energy. Now, I live on a college campus. I'm around people legit all the time, and it can be draining. Let me be real. It's really draining for me. If I have too much exposure to people and just like external stimulation, I kind of go nuts. I feel really crummy, and the only way I usually feel better is if I can just like be alone. It doesn't even have to be a long time. Sometimes it's just like 30 minutes just being by myself and chilling and relaxing, thinking, reading, journaling, something that doesn't involve human interaction. And if you're an extrovert, that may sound really weird, but it's just the way it is. If I spend too much time around people, like if I spend like a whole week surrounded by people, it's like let me give you a real world example here. Okay, expecting an introvert to be around people all the time and still have energy is like taking your phone, turning like on all your data, turning on your Bluetooth, and putting the brightness all the way up, and streaming Netflix without Wi-Fi for 20 hours and expecting your phone battery to last. It just doesn't work, okay? It's legit what I feel like. I feel like the dying phone, and it's just not pretty, okay? And just like the phone, when it gets low on battery, makes that really annoying beeping sound. Yeah, I get really annoying when I'm drained from people. I'm just kind of like, nope, leave me alone, don't talk to me. But yeah, so the low energy thing, and this can be really hard, especially if there's something you want to do, but it involves being around people and you just don't have the energy. First of all, you have to explain to them why you don't have the energy, and if they're an extrovert, good luck getting them to understand. But just yeah, just having to like say no to things I really do want to do, but physically and emotionally can't do because I'm so drained. It can be really hard. So just finding like that balance of having alone time and socializing, just something that introverts really have to work on. Thing number 3 is being entertaining. Okay, I don't like being the entertainer, the center of attention, or like a host. That sort of scenario, I just don't like it. I don't feel like it's my natural strength. I can do it, but for me, it's super draining and super exhausting. I swear, if you ever come over to my house, we'll literally just like sit, chill, relax. That's my idea of a good time, and being a great host is doing that. I don't like feeling like I have to entertain everybody or like make sure I've spoken to everybody. It's just, it's a nightmare. But something I can make myself do, just definitely a challenge for those of us who are on the introverted side of life. Okay, point number 4 is that when you're an introvert, it can be really hard to get to know you. And I find this to be true with me and a lot of my other introverted friends. We tend to take a long time to really warm up to people and feel comfortable around them, at least enough to share like the personal details of our life, which can kind of be a challenge because as much as I love having deep conversations, I'm not going to tell someone that I met 2 weeks ago about, some really emotionally hard thing I went through. It's just not going to happen. And you're probably thinking, but Rissa, aren't you doing a YouTube channel that talks about like being vulnerable and stuff? And yes, the answer is yes, but I'm talking about things that I've already had a chance to process, which this is still terrifying for me, but I really feel passionate about it, so I make myself do it anyway. These things I'm going through are not things that introverts can't do, they're just things that are challenging. So this is a real challenge for me. But I think that once you do get to know an introvert, something that is really cool is that we're such amazing, ridiculous people. And we have this like wild side that very few people ever get to see, but it's super incredible. So if you're willing to put the time and energy into getting to know an introvert, I promise it will be very rewarding and definitely worth your while because we're awesome, okay? We're just really cool people. Anyway, final thing that is a con of being an introvert are all of the misconceptions. Now, I hate it when people say that introverts are antisocial or we just are boring people who never want to do anything. It's totally not true. We just have to have our alone time. I don't know how else to describe it. If we don't have alone time, we're just not great people. We have to have that healthy balance. And yes, sometimes we choose being alone over hanging out with people, not because there's anything wrong with the people. We usually really love the people, but we just need our alone time. Otherwise, we're just not happy. It'd be like an extrovert having to be locked in a cabin in the woods for a month with no people. They'd be miserable. That's how I'd be if I was in the cabin with people for a month. It would be horrible. So, but this misconception that introverts are just like antisocial people who have their nose in their books all the time, it's not true. And I hate when I tell people like I can't do something or I don't feel like doing something. It's like a social thing, and I feel like that's their perception. I mean, they're like, oh my word, she just wants to be alone or she's depressed or something. It's like, no, I just really like being alone sometimes and having time to process my day. And trust me, if I'm in that mode, that tired, exhausted mode, I'm no fun to be around. So really, I'm just making everybody happy here. Anyway, so yeah. Thank you so much for watching this video, you guys. I hope that you either really related to this video or found out some new things in this video that are going to help you get along with the introverts in your life a little better. So thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel and share it with your friends. Share this channel. Let's help it grow. Let's bring more people into this great big family of ours. And yeah, I love y'all. I'll see you next week. Bye.